So Michael, this is the last painting we're going to show tonight. And this painting looks much larger than most of the ones that we've seen you do in the past.
Yes, it is, for me, what I consider a larger painting. Other artists work a lot bigger than this, and I have in the past, but this is a good size for me to do these days.
Can you tell me a little bit about the subject matter? It looks like it's maybe northern New Mexico, Colorado?
This is in New Mexico. It is along the high road heading up from Santa Fe to Taos. It's sort of a back road. And there's a little community up there called Las Trampas. And this is right outside of that, heading up the mountain on the right side. And the day this time I was going through there, this is how it looked that day. It had really distinctive lighting with some shadows across the distant mountains there, and nice lighting on the structures. It was a good day to hit this place.
There also seems to be a lot of movement around the central figures of this painting.
So that's one of your basic design elements that challenges you. You want to have a focal point in the painting, and you want to sequence and move the eye around the canvas to come back to that focal point. So fortunately, in a landscape, you have a lot of places that you can do that, a lot of organic shapes. And in this particular piece, if you work the foreground, you kind of have a horizontal movement coming across here, and then it hits this corner and you've got some grass bringing the eye up, and you could actually bring it back here through the focal point. Well, it's not the only way you can go. You can travel up this direction and follow the top of the mountains and hit the windmill and come back down. And then, like the organic shapes in the foreground, you can come up to clouds in a sky. You can always manipulate those so that you can bring the eye back around to the focal point. You can do 3 sequences like that in a painting this big.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about the grasses and the color in the foreground?
So I've been experimenting with paint application in these fields, and we basically, in oil painting, we do work dark to light. So if you lay down some darker colors to begin with, you can come over top of that with various brush strokes to get the feel of a field without necessarily painting every blade of grass. And you want it to be fresh and varied in brush stroke, and also value and color. And it's the texture of a field that you're trying to achieve with that.
So Michael, last question. It looks like the cowboy horse and dog are about ready to go on a journey, and the eye leads me to think that they're going to go investigate that valley and mountain valley in the background.
Yes, that was the idea behind the painting and the subject. And then in a landscape like this, you want to create the perception of depth, 3D depth, on a 2-dimensional surface, on a canvas. And there are things that you get into when you do that. The building itself, there's perspective, where things get smaller as they go back, and that's one of the obvious rules to depth. That these 3 structures, in a sense, really help that happen in their size, and then it leads you into the smaller areas of the field and the mountain. But there are other ways you can create that. You can create it with an atmosphere. We have a blue atmosphere, so things tend to get bluer as they go back in depth. Another area is contrasting value, which is darks and lights. This is the one that is maybe the most complicated, but your difference between your dark and your light as you go back in space can contract. The lights and the darks come closer together. Whereas in the foreground, you have a wide range of, your widest range of darks and lights. And then finally with the clouds, you can create space on that ceiling too and make it like a room, in that those clouds are going back too, and they're basically going from large to small as you go back. And you do have to watch that, because in reality some clouds can be bigger in distance than ones up front, but you've got to be careful that you don't destroy that perspective that you're trying to achieve.